Okay, let's get started. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I see a lot of people still entering, so I'll let them in. And Yasmeen, just FYI. So I'll share a little bit about my background, about Musaffa, and then we're so excited to have Yasmeen join us today. And then we'll do a live Q&A. I have a lot of questions for her, and if anyone else has questions, please put it in the chat. Everyone who's in this webinar will also get a free 1 month trial of Musaffa Premium. And so at the end, inshallah, if you stay through, we'll give you the webinar code for that. So as an introduction, my name is Nusrat. I'm based in New York City. I'm head of education at Musaffa. To give you a background about Musaffa, we're the world's leading platform for Sharia compliant investing and just revolutionizing how Muslims approach global finance. So we're currently the #1 website for screening halal stocks and ETFs worldwide, and the #2 Islamic fintech company in the USA. Alhamdulillah. So here's the challenge that we're solving. In a 411 trillion global asset market, only 7% is Sharia compliant. That leaves a massive 30 trillion opportunity untapped. There's 400 million Muslims, and we're all facing the barriers to halal investing due to a lack of education, fragmented platforms, and limited options. So, Musaffa, we're really trying to create a complete ecosystem for halal investing built on a few core pillars. One is we're educating our community through Musaffa Academy. So, we're teaching Islamic finance principles and halal investing strategies. We're also giving you access to screen over 120,000 stocks, 9,000 ETFs to find what's Sharia compliant. We are providing the fundamental analysis tools and investment checklists so you can make informed decisions. And you can actually even trade your halal stocks and ETFs directly through our platform through supported brokerages. And we automatically calculate your purification amount and your zakat, so you can invest cleanly and exit cleanly. So this complete ecosystem means that you can learn, find, research, invest in, and purify your halal investments all in one place. And we're serving over 537,000 users across 200 countries. We have a Sharia certification from Mufti Faraz Adam, a really big deal in the UK. And so our mission is simple: democratize halal investing and empower the global Muslim community to build wealth while staying true to your values. So I'm really excited to introduce our special guest, Yasmeen Khan. She is the founder of Intentional Currency, a financial education platform empowering Muslim women to build wealth in alignment with their values. With over a decade in finance, she combines Islamic principles with practical financial strategies to make investing feel accessible, ethical, and deeply purposeful. So, through her courses, community, and personalized programs, she's helped over 1,000 women take confident steps towards financial freedom. Musaffa is actually one of the platforms that Yasmeen shares with her members, so we are so honored to have her with us today. I'm also a big fangirl, so we're gonna have a live Q&A. I'm gonna ask Yasmeen some questions. Again, anyone has any questions, please put it in the chat. This space is really open, non-judgmental. We're really here to learn and support each other on this halal investing journey. So, Yasmeen, I wanted to start off asking you your personal story. We have people from your corner of the world. We have people from Musaffa. Just wanted to hear, like, what sparked your passion for financial education and then led you to create the intentional currency?
Yeah, that's such a good question. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. As Nusrat said, if you have any questions, if there's anything that I say that's not clear, please add it in the chat. It's going to be sort of a casual conversation. And so I'm happy to make sure that everybody here gets the most value out of today's session, inshallah. So when it comes to my personal story, I think it's maybe a little bit different than what most people would expect, in the sense that I had no intention whatsoever of going into finance. If you spoke to me when I was 15, 16, when I was in college, I thought I was going to go into politics. I applied to law school. I was really thinking I was going to be like the first Muslim MP in my area. And what ended up happening is I had a close family member transfer their tax debt into my name on the day I turned 18. So I received a letter from the government basically that said this huge, multi 5-figure amount of debt was transferred into my name. They froze all my bank accounts. They took all the money that I had saved for university. And so overnight, I wasn't able to go to university. I was also really limited in terms of what I could do for work because I didn't have any education. And I had to get the first job that I could find that was the highest paying so I could start paying this down. And that happened to be a call center at the bank. Now, of course, through this experience, I also sort of, there were a lot of emotions or a lot of feelings of being in so much debt. And I realized that when I was asking all the people around me, no one in my community actually had any concrete help that they could give to me. And it's only by working at the bank and speaking with my managers and people who had that financial literacy that I was able to sort of get my footing. And the opportunity for me was that essentially my two options were either declare bankruptcy and lose everything and not be able to buy any property for 7 years, or I could start investing, work really hard, try my best to get out of the situation. And so that's exactly what I did. I started investing when I was 18, working at a call center income, so nothing fancy. I think it was something like $75 off of every paycheck that was going into my investment account. And as I was paying down that debt, my investments were also growing. Fast forward 5, 6 years, and I had the opportunity to buy my first property. I was able to look in my investment account and realized I had enough for the down payment. I bought that first condo. All of a sudden, I went from being extremely in debt to now having my income from my job, income from investments, and also income from this investment property. And I realized that in my head, I had created this image of who a real estate investor looks like or what somebody who invests in stocks looks like. And I never identified as that sort of picture I had in my mind. And I realized that this idea that you have to be somebody or have a certain income or have a job or come from a certain family to start investing is actually completely false. Investing is for anybody who is able to stay consistent, able to spend within their means, save consistently. If you're able to do that and manage the emotions and really stick to your budget, there really is no limit to what you can achieve through investing. And so, through my own experience, then I realized that I really wanted to turn it around and be able to serve my community and be able to tell as many women as possible, as many Muslims as possible, that all of these sort of beliefs that we have around investing are not true. And that you can invest in a halal way. You can invest even if maybe you don't see yourself having that as a part of your identity yet. There is a way for you to start investing and to grow wealth, even if you don't feel like you're really at that stage yet. And so I ended up leaving the bank and I started the intentional currency where we specifically serve Muslim women from around the world. We've helped thousands of Muslim women start investing. And alhamdulillah, in the short time that we've started the intentional currency, we've seen lots of women who have been able to build their portfolios, buy and sell stocks on their own, understand how to build a portfolio that matches their risk tolerance. And a lot of these women are women who came in feeling like they didn't know enough about finance. They didn't have the income. A lot of women who came and they were maybe new to the country and they weren't sure about the banking system. And within a couple of months, and now years, they've been able to establish their own investment portfolio and really prove that this is accessible to anybody, whether you have a finance background or not, whether you have a certain job title or not. And that's really the mission of the intentional currency, is making investing as accessible as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story and subhanallah at the journey of, clearing your debt. May Allah bless you and grant you even more ability to help Muslims, especially Muslim women. I want to ask Yasmeen, you mentioned these misconceptions, these barriers to halal investing. What are the top misconceptions that you've seen Muslims have about halal investing? And then maybe you can break it down as to and what are the misconceptions that women specifically have?
Yeah, I think when it comes to starting, it's pretty similar. I think some of the biggest misconceptions are just not knowing where to start. Like feeling like they're not ready, feeling like, okay, I need to learn a little bit more. I need to take another course. I need to, have a better understanding of finance concepts before actually starting to invest. And the reality is you don't need, you really just have to start. And especially with tools like Musaffa, they make it so easy and accessible to start. So the biggest barrier I would say is probably feeling like you're not ready or you're not at the place where you have to start. And so to keep it really simple, what I tell all my clients is the first step is going to be having a budget. The reason why is because if you want to start investing, you need to be in a financial position where you're able to not only cover your main expenses, but you also have enough that you're able to save on top of that. And so if you're not there, if you're still at a point where you're living paycheck to paycheck, this is not the time where you want to start going out and buying stocks. You want to really focus on working through your expenses, limiting your spending, making sure that you can get your budget under what you're earning so that you're able to save consistently. Once you're able to save consistently, you move on to step two, which is making sure you have your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is enough money to be able to cover those expenses for 3 months. And so let's say, for example, you're spending, I don't know, $4,000 a month on your home, groceries, all that kind of stuff. You want to have $12,000 saved. You want to make sure that if anything was to go wrong, you do have some cash that would be able to cover yourself in terms, in the case of emergency. Once you have that, now you're at a point where you're ready to start investing. And so you don't need to have 40, you don't need to have these huge amounts sitting in savings. Really, once you have that budget, you're saving consistently, you have your emergency fund, and I'm going to take it for granted that, any high interest debt is paid off. That's where you want to move on to that third phase, which is investing.
Oh, amazing. I love the way you broke it down. Even cognitively, that's the best way to have these kind of have that framework and then approach investing that way. And so then how do you teach? So I want to pinpoint on that third step of, or the last step where you actually begin investing. How do you then begin to teach people about halal investing? Like, how do you distill Sharia compliance and these concepts to beginners who, it's kind of like you're teaching someone about investing and then also encouraging them to invest at the same time. So it's like a behavioral shift, educational shift, and then a lot of things happening at once. So any tips, like how do you just go about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing is understanding the most common products that are not halal. So the number one things to stay away from, right? So that's going to be for us, especially living in the West. We're talking high interest, high yield savings accounts. We want to stay away from those. We want to stay away from anything that says like fixed income, guaranteed income, all of these things. If something is guaranteed, there's like a 99% chance that you're touching interest. And so, for Canadians, we're talking GICs, bonds, fixed income, all of these things are number one, you want to stay away from that. Once you've kind of avoided that, you get into the world of stocks, ETFs. And what I always tell people is you don't have to jump into stocks right away. You don't have to go and start looking at these charts and doing all this analysis and like fundamentals and all these things, right? We have these incredible, simple, accessible products that you can invest in where you don't have to be the one going in and verifying is this halal or not. You don't have to be the one going in and saying, is this a good company or not? And the way you can do that is by investing in a halal ETF. And
Mhm.
so halal ETFs, what it is, instead of buying one individual stock, you buy a share in many different companies at the same time. And so
Mhm.
somebody else is already verifying and has confirmed all of these companies are halal. All you have to do is buy one share of that. And you know that instead of having all your eggs in one basket, buying only shares of Apple, now you have shares of a whole bunch of different companies that are all halal. And so if one goes up or down, you know that it's not going to affect all of your life savings. So you don't have to make it hard for yourself. As
Mm.
long as number one, you avoid all of these products that are not halal, we know that they're not halal. High interest savings account, high yield savings accounts, and bonds, fixed income. We don't touch this at all. Then when we look at investing, you don't have to go straight to stocks. You can start by investing in an ETF. And as you sort of see, you're going to notice, okay, the value of my portfolio went up a little bit. Okay, it went down. You're going to start to understand how it works, automating your investments, figuring out your platform. And then you can move on to looking at individual stocks, doing some more research, figuring out, okay, I'm really interested in this like AI area. I want to see if I can start to invest in these types of companies, do your research, and you can slowly add those in. So it doesn't have to be from 0 to 100 right away.
Yeah, I love that. Alhamdulillah. Actually, Musaffa gave created the first truly halal ETF screener. So I can share in the link for anyone who's interested. And so I agree with you. It's one of those ways where, why make it harder for yourself when you have companies or institutions that are already doing it for you, who you trust and Sharia approved, then might as well just go in and see how, how they did it based on their criteria. Um, I had another question, and it kind of, I think this is like the through line of a lot of, what your purpose is and your mission. There's like this fear, um, apprehension, conservativeness that a lot of people in our community may have when it comes to halal investing. So, how do you address that fear and overwhelm them from taking their first investing steps? Like this is like years of conditional, years of conditioned thinking of in the Muslim community that halal investing, I mean, investing is haram. So, how do you even approach that idea?
I think the number one thing is always going to be coming back to your intention. And
Mm,
the first thing that I work through with all of my clients is what's your intention when it comes to investing? If you're coming into it and you're saying, I just want to be rich, I want to make as much profit as possible, that's all I care about. Well, halal investing is not really about that, right? Halal investing is about acknowledging that you're in a position where you're able to cover your main expenses. You still have some left over at the end of the day. And so already there, if you're in that position, globally, your Allah has blessed you with wealth. And when we acknowledge that, we also acknowledge that now we have a responsibility and that every dollar that Allah has given to us, we are also going to have this responsibility on the day of judgment of, okay, you were blessed with wealth. What did you do with it? And so now we have to think, if we have all of this money that's sitting in savings, Allah's blessed you with wealth, your family's taken care of, you're able to cover all of your expenses. Now, on top of that, you have all of this extra money sitting in your checking account that's doing absolutely nothing that you're going to have to answer for. Then you think, okay, how can I use this money to improve the society that I live in? How can I contribute in a way that's going to benefit the most vulnerable in our community or people who really need it more, right? And that's going to be through two ways. Either you're going to give sadaqah, you're going to give in charity, or you're going to invest. And you're going to invest in companies that, number one, are providing value that you think is important. So they're actually doing things that are in alignment with Islam. These are halal companies. And number two, we're also going to make sure that you're investing in a way that amplifies our voices. And I think that's so important. And that's why I really encourage my clients to use screeners, because that's where we can acknowledge that not only do we want our investments to be halal, we want them to be ethical. We want to make sure that our money is being invested in a way where we support companies that are treating Muslims fairly. And so that's why this financial literacy component and this investing component, what I always say is that this isn't optional. We're Muslim, it means, and especially if we're in this position where we can invest, we have to make sure that our money is being spent in a way where it's ethical and where we're able to say as an ummah, if your company is not in alignment with our values, if you're taking advantage of Muslims anywhere in the world, we are not going to invest our money with you and put that pressure. And so I think from that perspective, when we talk about halal investing, we're not talking about, yeah, I want to invest because I want to go and buy a Ferrari. We're talking about it from a place of my intention is acknowledging my privilege and acknowledging that Allah has tested me with this wealth and is going to ask me for it. And so I'm going to take it upon myself to educate myself on the best possible way that I can use this, not only for people and for serving Allah's people in this world, but also for my akhirah, making sure that it's getting me closer to my ultimate goal.
Subhanallah. Thank you so much for sharing. I love that intention and also your point about, um, you know, put the pressure that we can put on companies. I think more than ever before, Muslims are seeing how much power we have in changing the shift and how a lot of companies like I just saw a recent I don't know what I think it was a clothing brand or something that just maybe Nike started doing hijabs for and I'm like, wow, that's what we can that's the power that we have. Um and also, Musaffa is actually even we're creating an Islamic social responsibility filter. So now you don't even need to know if a company is just Sharia compliant. Now you can actually see if where it falls on that filter, like and then when it comes to um, ethics and when it comes to justice and especially as what's happening in Gaza. And so I love that you brought that up. A question. So for the people who are I would say in conflict or people who are skeptical. There's a lot of people who are skeptical, like, can halal investing really give me returns? There's this idea of like, I'm doing it for the akhirah. I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. I'm doing it for sadaqah. I'm doing it for my intention. But it seems like I'm not being able to make enough money from it. So, what do you say to those people who understandably have that kind of skepticism?
I think it's really important to realize that when we say halal investing, we're not talking about something that's separate from investing. We're just saying that, when you invest, you're not going to be investing in companies that are basically creating weapons or making money from anything that's not halal, alcohol, drugs, all of these types of things. And so ultimately, when I say halal investing, there's not a Muslim market or a halal market, or essentially you're dealing with the same market and the same companies as everybody else. It's just that there's a small portion of them that we're not going to touch because they don't align with our values as Muslims. And so number one is realizing this isn't something different to invest in. You are investing and you're just using this framework as sort of a filter to make sure that what you are investing in is in alignment with your values. And so the profit or the risk that you're taking on is going to be the same as any average investor. And so there's going to be years where you do well, years where you don't do so well. And that's completely normal. Over 5-10 years, there's a very, very high chance that you're going to do quite well as long as you're consistent. And so absolutely, halal investing is profitable. Now, this is what I'm going to say, and this is why these products, these screeners are so important, is that unfortunately there are many individuals who will take advantage of our Muslim community and sell, as like planners or these types of things, and will take a part of the profits for themselves under the guise of we're selling halal investing. And it's very, very important for you to understand fees when it comes to halal investing, opening an investment account. I have seen, unfortunately, so many clients, so many Muslim women clients who have dealt with advisors or dealt with companies where unfortunately they were taken advantage of in terms of fees. And so, very important to understand. To be completely frank, if you've been halal investing in the last 5 years and you haven't made any money, that is a huge red flag. There is a problem. And so I think it's really important to, yes, halal investing, you can make money, but also how are you doing it? Make sure that you have control and you're not paying a huge amount in fees.
Got it. That's great advice. Thank you so much. I've also noticed like a lot of the way you're talking about like your clients, the woman, it's a community. So how was building intentional currency as a community first approach? How do you think that impacted your members and their confidence as opposed if you had done like solo investing, for example?
Yeah, I think first of all, as women, community is so important. I mean, of course, my company, the Intentional Currency, was also built right off the back of COVID. And so I think there was sort of this desire to have these communities, but also for a lot of the women who I work with, they're the first investor in their family. There aren't any other women around them who are investing, and sometimes even the men in their community don't know about investing, right? And so what happens is we're normalizing that vocabulary. So we're having meetings where we're discussing, okay, these are my workplace funds. This is my retirement. This is, what I'm using for my 401k. What are you using for yours? Where's the letter template that you can use for your HR department? And we're normalizing these conversations in our community in a way where if we didn't have this joint community online, it would be very difficult to have these conversations. And that gives people the confidence to walk into their bank and to say, actually, I'm Muslim. I'm not going to invest in your mutual fund because I know that it has this portion that comes from fixed income and I only want to invest in the equities. It gives them the confidence to use the words that are very new for our community. And so I think that's been such a big component of why that community aspect is so important. Of course, there's also this component of shame of we already have so much and we are so blessed, and so how can we accept this ambition or this desire to ask for even more? Is it selfish? Is it greedy? And so there's this type of shame as well that we also uncover of sort of being investors and aiming to be multimillionaires as Muslim women, which a lot of my clients, alhamdulillah, a lot of them are on track to be multimillionaires within the next decade. And so there's a lot of feelings that come up with that. There's a lot of, generational financial trauma that comes up, a lot of things that we see our mothers or grandparents going through that. And so I think having that community is really a way for all of us to heal together and to grow together, and then gives everybody that vocabulary and that support.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. I love how you called it out, like normalizing the language, because I think sometimes we don't realize how important it is to get that confidence about when you're speaking or saying something. I remember someone was saying, imagine a football coach, instead of saying touchdown, he said touch up. It just loses your credibility right away. It gives you a lot of um, just fear and insecurity. And so teaching each other the language of the land, it just gives us so much more confidence. uh, and then also the generational trauma that you mentioned, do you mind if I double tap on that a bit, because that's just so huge. A lot of times we think that wealth is reserved for the akhirah, and that the golds and the riches and the reclining chairs and all that, it's for the akhirah. And so many of us feel a little shy and shameful and guilty to try to accrue more wealth, and may fear even the test that may come with more wealth. But we see so many of of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's companions. Many of them were wealthy, and many of them did amazing work with it. So anything you can share there to any of your learnings, like what helped people, heal? Like what helps people begin that process?
I think the first thing is acknowledging where you're getting stuck,
Mm,
where that comes from. I have clients who are overspending, and
mm,
they're making high incomes and they still are living paycheck to paycheck. And every time they say, as soon as I get this promotion, like I know if I just make that salary, then I'm going to start investing, I'm going to be able to save. And sometimes what it comes down to is things like, I had a client who realized that being born to immigrant parents, she was using her income as a way to overcompensate and really take care of her friends, and in a way that was putting her own finances at risk. She was
mm,
overspending, she was buying nicer gifts, she was trying to buy a fancy car so that it could kind of give the impression that she had achieved this success, because ultimately she felt like she didn't fit in as the child of immigrants, as somebody who didn't look like everyone else living in the West. And so when we realized that, then she was able to acknowledge that and say, oh, this is what I'm doing. How can I heal that in a different way? And once we were able to heal that, all of a sudden it was so easy for her to stay within her budget because she knew where that was coming from. And the same way, I've had clients who have a very high income, are saving consistently, have a huge amount of savings. And when I mentioned to them, like, you're ready to start investing, the fear that they experience, because maybe they're people who went through poverty as kids, right?
mm,
All of a sudden, having that big number in their bank account gives them that sense of security. And they start to feel like, okay, my safety is coming from the fact that I have this much money in my bank account. And if I have anything less than that, well, then I'm not safe anymore. And it's scary.
mm,
We have to come back to it and realize that ultimately, money, or this currency that we have, is only worth anything to the extent that we are transforming it into our good deeds for the day of judgment.
mm,
And that ultimately our security is not coming from your job, it's not coming from your husband, it's not coming from your bank account, and it's definitely not coming from your investments. Your security is only coming from Allah.
mm,
And the scary thing is when we start to associate that power, when we start to give away that power from Allah and we move it to our money, that's when perhaps Allah can test us with our wealth and remind us that your security didn't come from that bank account. And so when
mhm,
I talk about this generational, these sort of feelings, that's what it comes down to. Ultimately, the steps are so easy. You want to budget, make sure that you're spending within your means, you have your emergency fund, and then you're investing consistently. Those are the three steps. And so it's a matter of taking a look at yourself and figuring out where in those steps am I getting stuck and where is that coming from? Where is that feeling that is stopping me from achieving this next step? Where is that coming from and how can I heal that in a different way?
Subhanallah, Jazakallah khair. That was just so beautiful. I found, yeah, finding the source of the feeling, tracing back to where it's coming from. usually the answer of how to heal it is usually the answer in that, finding out where it's coming from. So thank you so much. And I wanted to share a little story that you reminded me of was uh, I think it's in our tradition where it was a basket and there was a cover on it and there was bread inside. And this basket full of bread with the cover on was being passed around in a group. And the instruction was everyone take as much as much bread as you want. So everyone was taking a little piece of the bread out. Keep in mind the cover was still on. And hundreds of people out of this little bowl, this little basket was able to take out bread. Then it came to this one guy who was like, how is this small basket? How is it providing bread for all these people? He opened the lid, and the minute he opened the lid, when the basket was given to the next person, all the bread was gone. And so the message of that story was the minute you start distrusting, or the minute the risk that Allah can provide, or the minute you start questioning it or doubting it or thinking like miracles can't happen for me, that's when the barakah decreases. So it's not even about how much you have, it's the barakah within what you have. And so what you were saying reminded me so much of that story, and how the it's also this idea of like don't there's a time and place to actually, especially in the beginning, like looking at your bank account and seeing how much you should budget and save. And then there's like the metaphysical, like the spiritual aspect of don't look at your bank account. If you keep looking at it too much, then you're trusting the bank account and the numbers and the movement of it. But Allah can provide for you from sources you can't even imagine. um, so thank you so much for that bit. And I see some questions coming in for me, like how do you get started? And so correct me if I'm wrong, like you really do recommend also looking at like halal ETFs as like the starting point, right? But then you also mentioned the first three steps. Do you mind just, we got so many more new people, just like your steps, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, the first thing is you want to make sure that you have a clear budget. You
Hmm.
have to know how much you're making every month and how much you're spending every month. And you need to make sure that you're spending within your means. So, whatever your income is, you need to make sure that consistently every month you're able to save. Once you have that, then you want to work on your emergency fund. So this is making sure that you have enough saved to cover your expenses for 3 months. And so, for example, if you spend 4,000 every month, you want to have at least $12,000 saved. Once you have that, you have your budget, your emergency fund, you've paid off all of your high interest debt, then you can move on to that third step, which is investing. The key here, something that I didn't mention actually that's important, is you want to make sure that you have a clear goal when it comes to investing. Investing isn't like saving. Investing is something that has to be intentional. You don't just invest. People message me all the time on Instagram and say, "Oh, what's the best investment? I want to start investing." It's really going to depend on your goal. And so if someone comes to me and says, I'm saving to go for Hajj next year, what I'm going to tell them to invest in is going to be very different than someone who says, I'm going to invest for retirement in 30 years. Right? Depending on the country where they live, depending on in how long they want to reach this goal, depending on even their own risk tolerance. Like, are they somebody who's really, really scared of losing money? And so I would say the best way is to start with ETFs. That's the easiest, but also have a clear goal in mind. My recommendation always is make sure your retirement is taken care of. Figure out how much are you going to need to have saved for retirement, work backwards, see what that minimum amount is per month that you need to invest in order to reach that retirement goal, and automate that. That's step number one. If you're living in Australia, Canada, the States, the UK, make sure that you're taking advantage of tax efficient accounts. So we're talking like ISAs, supers, 401ks, all of these things, because that's going to help you reach your goal so much faster. And then, yeah, I would recommend start with ETFs. So accessible and so easy to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so we had another question, portfolio diversification. So
Mhm.
any advice or any feedback you have while staying within Sharia guidelines? So besides ETFs, anything else that you may recommend when it comes to even stock picking or?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like the halal ETFs, you have to know what's inside of them, right? Like some people they'll buy a halal ETF and then they'll buy some of the companies that are already in the ETF. Especially
Mm,
to realize like the top 10 companies in an ETF usually take up a big portion of it. And so keep an eye. You can look it up on Yahoo Finance. Whatever ETF you want to buy, check what the top 10 companies are. It'll show you. And so you don't want to buy into those same companies A lot of the time they end up being tech companies. And so you don't want to overexpose yourself to tech. You want to diversify between the sizes of the companies, the industries of the companies. You may decide to add crypto or real estate into your portfolio. So really important. I'm not sure if Musaffa has a tool that kind of analyzes the portfolio diversification, but you can look it up on Google. There's tons of tools that will sort of, especially with AI, that will tell you all the weaknesses in your portfolio, what you should add to diversify. And so there's lots of help online for that.
Got it. Thank you. I have a few, I mean, I have a lot more questions, but I do want to, if you're comfortable with it, some people were asking about crypto. So your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So first of all, I think this is, this is just kind of comes back to my values and the way that I teach. When we talk about crypto, the first thing is comes to your intention, right? Is your intention to make a lot of money on crypto because you saw somebody who bought Bitcoin 10 years ago and you're thinking that you're going to hit the second wave of crypto? If that's the case, to be honest, you shouldn't be investing in crypto. It's very, very high risk. It is one of the most volatile assets that you can buy. And so this is not something that you want to throw your retirement savings into. This is something that, can be a component of your portfolio, understanding that this is a very high risk asset. From an Islamic standpoint, myself, I think overall the consensus is that it is Sharia compliant. However, make sure that you're investing in assets that you actually understand. So, what I always tell my clients is you want to go on Reddit and find the top 5 coins to buy this year and just double check, okay, it's halal, 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 invest. That's not really how us as Muslim investors should even be approaching this. You should be aware of what is this coin? Who is the team behind it? What are they trying to achieve? Is this project going to bring more value to our ummah, to this society? And so I think crypto is something that is sort of, for me, not a priority because it's very high risk. And I prefer investing in companies that are actually providing value. Now, there are crypto coins that are providing value and that are doing, are part of incredible projects. And if that's the case, I think it's great. But I really encourage all my clients to avoid investing in anything just for the sake of profit or just because they found it on Reddit. I'm not sure if that kind of answers, but you get a drift of my perspective.
Yes, yes, definitely. And we always at these webinars get people get questions about crypto, and it's important to hear all the people that we look up to and are educators in the space to see their diversity of their thoughts, and then eventually it's up to us really for each individual investor to decide what's best for them. Um, yeah, I had a question about, I know you mentioned halal ETFs, but did you ever have clients who are more interested in picking the stocks themselves? And if so, any experiences that you learned or they learned through doing that, and any advice that you have for people who would rather go down that route?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that it's understanding that that's a much higher risk route.
Hmm.
Um, Understanding that even within companies, there are different levels of risk. And so when we say investing in stocks, there is a whole range of risk level in stocks. There's high risk stocks and low risk stocks, and it's very much not the same. I do have a lot of clients who don't want to invest in ETFs because at the moment, there aren't very many halal ETFs that are screening for BDS compliance, right? And so a lot of the top companies in ETFs are companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, companies that a lot of Muslims right now don't want to support. And so I think that's a very honorable reason to want to go the route of picking your own stocks. That being said, very important, do not pick stocks that you find on Reddit that somebody said is going to be the next big thing. You want to go with companies that are established, that have been around for a very long time, that are very large, large cap companies, that have a track record of being profitable. They aren't companies that have a ton of debt. And so you want to pick companies that are on the lower risk end of stocks. If you want to go the route of investing in a whole bunch of companies that are very high risk, know that money, when I'm saying over 5-10 years of investing, chances are you're going to make money. I am not including people who just go out and buy what they find on Reddit. You need to have a strategy. I highly recommend, there's tons of stuff on YouTube. Learn about investing, understand what's a large cap, small cap stock, what are blue chip stocks, what are all the different industries. Not all stocks are the same. And you have to be very, very careful when you're going in and you're trying to buy individual stocks. That is a very high risk game. It's not because the stock is halal that it is a good investment. And so you can have a completely halal portfolio that goes completely bankrupt. Be careful. You need to have a strategy. And there is a strategy that will allow you to do quite well with halal stocks, but you have to know what you're doing. And that's why I always say, don't try and learn everything overnight. Start with ETFs and then move on to that individual stocks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that's why educators like you are so important in the space because to give this kind of guidance of knowledge, like knowing what you're actually going into as opposed to just investing in something just because it's halal. And actually, what you reminded me of is a tool that Musaffa has called the purification calculator. You may be including it in your wealth circles as well, so you can talk about it a little bit as well. But a lot of people may not know that if a Sharia compliant company earns up to 5% of its revenue from non-halal sources, you actually have to donate that portion if you make any profit off of that. And so Musafa helps you calculate based off of when you are holding that company. Um, you can actually calculate how much of that portion you need to go and donate. And then we're in collaboration with Islam Channel, so you can go into any of their charities and donate that directly. So at Musafa, it's such a big deal for us to purify your wealth. And we're really trying to educate our learners, educate our users, the necessity of that. I mean, it's Sharia law to actually do that. Anything that you've learned in your community, in your circles about people thinking about that, the purification of their wealth aspect?
I think that most people don't know. Most people think
Mhm.
the halal company is halal 100%. They don't realize that there is that percentage. I think maybe us as educators, we're not doing a good enough job of sharing that. I think it's so important for people to be aware of it. It's a part of our program, a part of the halal investing program. We have an entire module on purifying and paying
Mm.
zakat. Most people, when I talk about purification, have no idea what I'm talking about. They've never heard of this concept before. And so that's a very scary thing because if we're pushing investing, we want to make sure that everybody's doing it in the right way. So very, very important. If you don't know what that is and you are investing, definitely take a moment to look it up and figure out how to do it. I think you can do it every year when you pay zakat. You make sure you're purifying at the same time. And it's not a complicated thing, but you do have to do it.
Yes, definitely. And since you mentioned about, us as educators, maybe we have to do a better job. Where do you see the relationship between educators and halal screening platforms and these ecosystems working together to better serve our community?
So I think through sort of webinars like this,
Mm.
through collaborations, by making sure that we all know what each other is doing, by being able to sort of serve all of our communities and have that information, I think it's so important. A lot of us, I think, sometimes work in silos, especially
Mm.
because when we look at different countries, like Canada and the US is so different from the UK, so different from Australia, so different than what's going on in India, Pakistan. And so it's so important for us, I think, as educators and screeners, fintech companies that are working in the halal Islamic finance space, for all of us to stay connected and really serve our community in the best way possible. Like I have a community of Muslim women that I work with, and I kind of understand their pain points, and it's important for me to be able to share that kind of with you guys and let you know how we can improve the overall customer experience.
And then are you seeing any trends or patterns that, any foresight that you have about where the halal investing space will be within the next 5 years?
Oh, I think it's going to be amazing.
Mm.
Tell
Hope so.
you. I'm so excited because I think for the first time in a very long time, halal investing is so accessible. And I think that, one of the outcomes of October 7th is that people are really waking up and they're realizing that it's up to us to use our money in a way that supports our community. We can no longer just be passive in our societies and assume that if anything was to happen to us or anything was to happen to our community, that people are going to take care of us. we know that we have to look out for ourselves and our own community. And so I think that a lot of Muslims are being more intentional about where their money is going. And it works out well because we have so many incredible Islamic finance companies that are making it so much more accessible and that are making it so much easier. And so I'm excited for more ethical ethical sort of resources to come out, things about controversies, making sure that we're not investing in any companies that are supporting Israel or involved in any sort of conflict that is hurting Muslims. And I'm excited to see the space in 5 years.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm also really excited. I think we're really at the cusp of the beginning, and everyone who's already working in it and knows, as you're saying, like if you're intimately in the space and already know the pain points, you're already way ahead. So it's only just beginning, this I would say cultural shift of taking ownership of where your money is going and putting it into places that are worthwhile and ethical. And I wanted to ask you about anything that's surprising, any surprising revelations that you've had while working in the Wealth Circle and your investing program, um, that you can share with us. Any advice from it that you can share with us as well?
I think the most incredible thing that I've noticed is how fast you can learn.
Mm,
So many women come into, whether it's the investing program, into our community, feeling like, I wouldn't even want to walk into the bank and answer questions about my own bank account. And that truly the tools and resources that are available now make it so easy to invest that I've seen women who, newly immigrated, wasn't sure about how the banking system worked, ended up building her own investment portfolio. She added some crypto. She was investing in her own stocks. And now she's one of the leaders in our alumna group. She's one of the ones that says, like, oh, you know what? Guys, just so you know, we're in phase 3 in this stock, and so it's probably a good time to buy based on this technical chart. And this is somebody who just a couple months ago wasn't even sure about bank accounts. And so I think that really goes to show that if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, this is something I've been wanting to do, go for it. It really is so much easier than you think. And especially as we mentioned, with that intention, when your intention is to do the right thing and to do it for the right reasons, Allah puts so much barakah in your knowledge and in your understanding. And so don't underestimate yourself. This is something that's so important. I think just go for it.
amazing. Thank you so much. I know we don't have too much time left. I've gotten some personal messages about your program, about intentional currency. I've shared it here in the Wealth Circle, the investing program, the course that you have as well. Um, there are some questions about like, does it matter that not all the women don't need to be from Canada, I believe, right? It's
Oh no, most of the women aren't from Canada.
okay, awesome, awesome. And then I see that we had a question about a stock was listed as halal in grade A and Musaffa, but they know for a fact that it's under the boycott list. I want to say that Musaffa is actively aware of that, and a company that may be Sharia compliant based off of law and the historical criteria about it may be considered halal. But then we're also releasing, inshallah, soon an Islamic social responsibility filter. So then you'll be able to see maybe a company from a Sharia perspective could be halal, and that's based off of like, is the revenue from non-compliant sources or if it's from interest or debt. And then you'll see that filter of that of if it's contributing to genocide, for example. So that's coming out soon, and that is an emblematic of Musaffa's deep, deep interest of trying to be ethical, trying to accommodate all the new and necessary filterings that needs to exist in the halal investing space. We also had a question about do you recommend any resources to start learning about investment strategies? I gave them Musaffa Academy, but do you have anything, Yasmeen, that we can share?
I mean, they can definitely join if they're a woman, our free community. We have tons of events every month on how to start investing, how to open your account, different types of accounts that exist. And so definitely join the free community.
Awesome. Yes, I'll share that as well. And then we had a question. Let me see. how do we, what is it required for a minimum investment? So I can share from Musaffa's angle because we have two answers for this, but you can start off first.
So, I mean, for me, it's always those three steps. Like we keep it really simple. You know, you budget, make sure you're spending within your means. You have your emergency fund. Once you have your emergency fund, then you can start investing. And so, technically, you can start investing with something like $50. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. But the key is that you want to really have your budget, living within your means, your emergency fund, and then start with investing that $50.
Yes, same with Musaffa as well. You can link your supporting brokerages and actually buy and sell directly on the platform. And in those cases, you don't need there is no minimum amount when it comes to investing in these stocks, whatever you're comfortable with. And as Sister Yasmeen mentioned, her steps of budgeting and saving. But then Musaffa is also our crowdfunding round has just opened, and so you can actually invest in Musaffa itself. So I'm adding the investment link here. Here, you are actually be investing in Musaffa, the company as a whole. And alhamdulillah, we've already raised over 5 million, over 750 investors from over 50 countries. And if you invest in Musaffa, you're actually building the company in and of itself. Okay, so I see there's a question. Okay, it's more about like how do you contact Musaffa? So I'll add some information here, like our emails, and then at the end of this webinar, I will share the free trial, the code for everyone. But Sister Yasmeen, it was an absolute pleasure to have you. You're so incredible, mashallah. The work you've done, the learnings that you're sharing with the community, it's just so necessary, especially for Muslim women and not even just Muslim women. Just I know everyone here has benefited. I'm getting a lot of love on private message too. So I wanted to ask any final thoughts, any final words. We'd love to have an ongoing collaboration with you through Musaffa, seeing how much people loved you. So yes, any final words from you?
Yeah, I think the one message that I kind of hope that everyone leaves with is that this knowledge, this investing knowledge, is not something that's extra. This isn't something that you need to know if you want to be rich or something you need to know if you're interested in finance. This financial literacy and this investment literacy is essential knowledge for all Muslims. We live in a capitalist society. Our entire system functions around money. And so it is essential for us as Muslims to understand these concepts so we can make sure that we are using our money in a way that advocates for the most vulnerable. And so if you're sitting here and you're sitting in a position where you're able to invest, you have extra money, you're able to cover your expenses, and you still have that extra, Allah has tested you with the blessing of wealth, and we will be asked for it. And so this knowledge is not something that is extra. This is not just if you want to be rich. It is essential for all of us. And so I just want to say, may Allah reward every single person who attended this meeting with that intention, and may Allah put barakah in all of your journeys, learning about investing, learning about finance, growing your wealth, and may Allah make this a means of advocating for our most vulnerable and freeing the Muslims currently living under oppression.
I mean, thank you. Jazakallah khair so much. So I'll share the code. It will be active at 2 p.m. EST. So yes, the code is Web10 trial. You're going to be able to get a 1-month Musaffa premium trial for free. And so it will be active at 2 p.m. EST. So in like 6 minutes, and it will be active for 3 hours. So please jot this down, download the app, take the free 1-month premium trial, see what it's like. We'd love for you to stay with us. Inshallah, there's so much more that Musaffa is doing, and in terms of education and in terms of these kind of webinars as well. And so, yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, please, I'm here for the next 5 minutes. You can chat with me, but I also put I will be sharing my email here. So if at any point you are not able to access the webinar code, you can message me directly.
Yeah, and Sister Nusrat, can you tell that it needs to be done through the website?
Yes, sorry. It needs to be done through the web platform, yes. So not through your iOS or Android or the app, but through the web platform. Also keep in mind that the toggle is automatically an annual, so make sure when you're putting in the code, you move it to monthly. So monthly premium. Okay, I'll put the code here as well. Web 10 trial.
Maybe the best way, just quickly to show on the webpage, on our webpage, Sister Nusrat, that would be great. because people are still asking how do they use the code. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not currently active, but I can show how you can go about it. Okay, so here's the web platform. You can just go click free sign up and you'll put in your name. Okay, I think I should try. I don't know what email do I even put? Okay, let me put in any email right now. Let's see. So as you can see, it's asking for verification. Okay. Oh, this is actually an amazing new feature where we can customize your experience for you by telling us what markets you're interested in screening, any brokerages that you want to use, the type of investor you are, why did you sign up. But for the sake of this demonstration, I will go directly to the payment. Yes. So as you can see, you go to premium, monthly, get started, continue to personal plan. So I'm getting a number. This is linked to my phone. Awesome. And you can add web and trial. Yep, as you saw, 100% off for the month, and I can just subscribe right now, and then that's how it works. So $0. So everyone who joined the webinar today will be getting that access. I see there's a few more questions. Just want to make sure I get all of them. Let's see. No, you do not need to add. I mean, where was the place? So you will. Yeah, let me share it again. So when you're on this page and you just go to pricing plans, you can click premium, toggle to monthly, get started this way.
Yeah, and our platform is musaffa.com.
And then you add the promotion code here. So someone asked, where's the place you add promotion code right here? Web 10 trial. As you can see, that's how it worked. Okay, I want to be respectful of Yasmeen's time. Thank you again, Yasmeen, so much for joining us. Really, really honor and privilege. And yeah, Jazakallah khair so much. I'm going to stay back in case anyone has any questions for the trial, but thank you again, Sister Yasmeen.
My pleasure. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I guess I understood. She's asking if she doesn't deal with the dollars. And then if you can explain, Sister Nusrat, that in every country it adjusts automatically for the currency.
That's depending on where you're based. So the pricing for the Musaffa premium membership. So because I'm in the US, it's showing dollars. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let me see. I want to be here for all of you so that you can all get the free trial, inshallah. Yeah, someone asked about doubtful stocks. Yeah, Musaffa doesn't encourage to invest in doubtful stocks, but they still exist because we're fair. We share everything. We share all the stocks in the different criterias of halal, not halal, doubtful. But what you mentioned is true. Yes, it does require careful consideration, best to seek guidance. Got through the code, but still need to add my credit card. Yes, I believe you do need to add your credit card details, but and that's just to get because you're getting the premium membership, but the first month is free. And it's a trial run. So it's really about you seeing how Musaffa fits into your life. And inshallah, it will add the benefit. You'll be able to see all the screenings of the stocks and ETFs. You can connect your brokerage. You can get access to Musaffa Academy, the fundamental analysis, the purification calculator, the zakat calculator. You can get all the detailed analysis for all the stocks breakdown. After 1 month, will the amount be deducted? No. So after 1 month, that amount will not be you're not going to be charged. But I believe you do have to cancel reoccurring subscription if you don't want to continue with us. Is there a broker you recommend, Musaffa? There's not any that we recommend, but we have partnerships with many brokerages, so you can actually pick the one that's best for you. Yes, Najimuddin. Yes, if you don't cancel after 1 month, you will be charged. So, but again, the hope is that you stick around with us after this one trial. You stay with Musaffa. How to access Musaffa Academy? Let me give you the link. We do hope to add more language to the platform. We have a lot of users from French-speaking nations, Arabic-speaking nations. So there is the goal to do that. Hafiz, do you have a membership already, or are you a free member? Because you said you already have a login. Yes, then you're good. You don't have to have a new one.
Yeah, you would need to go and then sign up for free membership through that free account that he has, right?
Sorry, brother. Now, what did you say?
So he has to go just to his account and then from the website and then sign up by choosing the account that he wants to use, the plan he wants to use.
Okay, if no other questions, I see 35 people are still here. Did you share the link? Okay, let me share the link. Oh.
Yes, you shared as a response to my last message for Academy.
Okay, anyone else have questions for the free trial? I got a private message from someone asking about the investment process. So, like we said, you could join Musaffa as an app member and then invest in your own on the stocks and ETFs. But we also have our equity crowdfunding is live, and so I'm sharing the link again. I know Sister Yasmeen mentioned in your investment journey to invest in halal ETFs. It's a lot easier because they're already bundled together. There's also the opportunity to invest in companies and a private company. So if by investing in Musaffa, you actually become a shareholder. So you become part owner of Musaffa. So if you like what we're doing, which we hope you are because you're here, we have over 900 investments already from 750 investors, 5 million raised from almost all over the world. I think we're hitting all the United Nations countries. So any questions you have regarding that, if you're interested in starting your halal investing journey by investing in a Muslim company that is helping others to invest halal, then I would highly encourage you to look into investing in Musaffa. I'll put the email here as well in case you have any questions after the webinar. So Ali, I'll share again. So when I go into getting Musaffa Premium, right? When I click Musaffa Premium and it takes me to this checkout page on Stripe, you can add the promotion code right here. So you can add Web 10 trial, click apply, and as you can see, it just made it $0 for the month. Let me know if you have any other questions. So that's where you add the code where it says promo code. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, awesome. I'm gonna give you my email here. So if you amazing Najmuddin, alhamdulillah, thank you. Welcome to Musaffa. Okay, I gave you everyone my email. If after the session you're trying and it doesn't work, let me know and I'll hop on a call with you, show you via Zoom our screen share. Okay, sounds good. All right, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmat. Seem, where do you live?
Maybe Sister Nusrat, you can communicate through the email with her
I'll do
to
that.
figure out what's happening. Maybe somehow affecting either if she uses any VPNs or something. It should show Indian rupee.
Yeah, Seem, do you mind emailing me a screenshot? Do you mind emailing me a screenshot of what you're seeing? I send you my email above. Thank you. Okay. And Sabrina, no, unfortunately, the code is active for the next 3 hours and it's for this upcoming month. So you already subscribed. So thank you so much for your subscription and for supporting Musaffa. But yes, this code is active for the next 3 hours for the next month. Okay, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care.